going to be continuing this one that I just started the other day. So we're going to drop a table in first, and then move on to there's some fruit down here, and then we have a finch. This is a rainbow finch. This is a native bird of Australia, and then we have some other sort of things, flowers, and then some fruit, all on the table. So hello everyone, welcome. So I'll just get right to it. I'm going to be dropping in some shadows right now on this table. So I have a raw sienna here, which is basically just a brown, a reddish brown. I'm going to mix that with a little bit of black to get that shadow color. And so this, how do I draw a moose? I start with the head and I add the antlers after that. Hello, Venezuela, welcome. Yeah, hey. So this is raw sienna here, this color, this brown color. So what I'm going to do, I just have the whole top of the table painted in this raw sienna, and I'm going to add some shadows with by adding some black to this raw sienna. And I'm using a number 4 flat brush here. You can use any kind of brush. I probably recommend a flat or a round in this case. Maybe a 4 or a number 2 might give you a little more control. Depends where you are, how much control you like. I tend to have less control at the beginning of paintings and then more control as I put in more and more details toward the end of the painting. It's typically how it goes. So what that means for me is that I tend to use larger brushes at the beginning and smaller brushes at the end. I think that's fairly in line with a more academic approach to painting, like kind of approach that you'd hear from an art school teacher. Start loose and tighten up toward the end. Yeah, hello. Good stuff. Keep rocking. Thank you. I shall. I'm just adding some darker paint where I think there might be shadows. And it's going to be fairly consistent here because all of these objects are round. So, and then toward the back it's going to be a little bit darker. And because it's farther away from the light source. So I'm just blending right on the painting. I painted this this lighter layer this afternoon, so it's still wet. This is oil paint. Okay, I am blonde and I have no idea how this works, except there are a bunch of people who do not sing. Okay, well this is a live stream, so how this one works is that I just the stream is live, and so if you're watching this, you're watching me in real time wherever you are in the world. It happens to be 7:30 in the part of Canada that I'm streaming, And then if you have specific questions about art or painting or art galleries or color blindness, then you can leave them in the chat. And then, yeah, we'll try to get to your questions. We're in Canada, just outside Toronto, in I guess technically it's a city. Maybe it feels more like a town called Oakville. It's right on Lake Ontario, about a half an hour drive from Toronto. Here in Edmonton? Yeah, I'm originally from the West. I'm originally from Saskatchewan. So I like Edmonton. I'm just adding some shadows here. This same color I'm going to put down here in a few moments. This fruit, everything in this painting is native to Australia, and that's because this painting is going to Australia. It's going. I'm represented by a couple of different galleries, well, three galleries, and one of them is in Australia. So I'm painting some still lifes very specific to Australia in terms of the flora and fauna. So yeah, all of this bird, this rainbow finch, and then all of these plants, and then also this fruit. This is an unusual fruit. I have never tried it, but I'd like to. It's called the quan dong, and it has quite a large seed inside, almost like a lychee or lychee, however you pronounce that. But it's a beautiful red fruit. So native to Australia. Goldie and finch. Yeah, there are lots of different kinds of finches. This is a really beautiful one. The first time learning about finches, I think, was in school, talking about the HMS Beagle stopping at Galapagos. And Darwin making his notes on the different beaks, different kinds of finch beaks that had evolved. Hey, thanks so much for the wave, Aureus. Really appreciate that. Yeah, this one's gonna be really colorful because these fruits, these kwandongs, are really, really red, and then there's these little circles here. That's a bright yellow flower. I've forgotten the name. I'll have to figure it out. And this is a single large flower up there. It's almost the same size as the finch. So, yeah, keeping with the same theme as that last one with the lorikeet. I haven't actually finished that one, by the way. I have to paint the background still. I had already painted the background once, but it didn't really take. It was still a little streaky for my liking, so I have to get to it again. Yeah, if those of you out there are still looking for some Christmas presents, or holiday presents, I should say, please do consider my print shop. There's a link in the bio, or you could just click the link, go to markliamsmith.com, and yeah, I have over 40 prints now available. Hello, England. You are up late. I don't know how many hours ahead you are. Something 5 or 6 hours ahead. I think maybe this time of year you're 5 hours ahead. So anyway, yeah, you're up late, past midnight. Welcome to the stream. Oh, thanks very much. Oh, okay, just gone midnight in London. Nice. I really like visiting London. Originally I'm from England, but I'm from the north, from North Yorkshire. But I have had a show in London before. I had a show in a part of London called Mayfair. I don't know if that's a very popular or common area, but it was fairly central. And then back in 2016. I'm just kind of pushing this combination of raw sienna and black. I'm just kind of pushing it in here. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you can't sleep. But I'm happy to that you're tuning in here. Okay, that's the kind of the side done. Let me just darken some more of these shadows here. You're from, oh, it's 2:44 in South Africa. Wow, that is late. Thank you for joining. We're teaching my little 3-year-old geography right now, and he really likes South Africa because it has 3 capitals. He's very happy to tell me. Cape Town, Pretoria, and Bloemfontein. $7:44 in NYC. Yeah, same thing here in Toronto. Where am I? I'm just outside Toronto in a town called Oakville. So right on Lake Ontario. And about half an hour drive from Toronto. Basically between Toronto and Hamilton. Tutorial so helpful. You do a draft now? Oh, nice. Very happy you liked it. Yeah, that one kind of worked out. I did a tutorial a few videos later. It was how to draw a dragon, and you have to use the first 44 seconds of the giraffe tutorial to get the basic structure, and then you modify the giraffe to get the dragon. Kind of fun. The unicorn. Yeah, that one might take a few chances. I think it makes it a lot easier when you you look at the square or one of the circles, whatever those first shapes are that you put down. And when you draw your lines in relation to those, and then if something doesn't work out, you can look back at those shapes, that circle or that square, and you say, okay, where did the lines intersect the square? Was it closer to the middle of the square, closer to the corner? It's kind of a take off the old grid technique, which has been used for thousands of years, I'm sure. Oh, thanks, Adam. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it went well. It was good. It was nice to take some time off and go to Montreal for the exhibition. For those of you just tuning in, I had a solo show that reception in Montreal, Canada. It opened last Friday, and so I went to Montreal on the Monday. Well, technically, went to Quebec on the Monday. Didn't get to Montreal till the Tuesday, but just came back the following Monday. We took a week off, and yeah, it was nice to see a lot of old friends and had a show. My the gallery that I'm with, the Montreal gallery that I'm with, just changed locations, so now they're in Old Montreal. A really great location. He's got a fantastic space. So I have a video on my Instagram if you're interested in checking that out. But yeah, a reasonably good turnout considering COVID procedures were in effect, and the weather was suboptimal. So a reasonably decent turnout considering all things. Thank you for the rose. Jody asks, what brand of paint do I use? Well, I use a lot of different kinds of oil paint. All of the oil paint I use is professional grade, but I would say mostly I use a kind of oil paint from the UK called Michael Harding. And secondly, I would say I would use Old Holland. And obviously that's a paint from Holland. That's a really old company, about 250 years old. And I use those two primarily because they don't have any fillers like chalk or talc or calcium carbonate in them. And then I have a handful of other kinds of paint I use. I like to use Gamblin and Williamsburg and Cama pigments and so on. But yeah, mostly Michael Harding and Old Holland, and then Gamblin. And all oil paint. If you're interested in learning about paint, I have a YouTube video just focusing on oil paint, like what goes in it, synthetic versus natural. And I give recommendations for different budgets. And yeah, so I definitely point you to my YouTube page. It's the same username, Mark Liam Smith. You can check that out if you're interested in different brands of oil paints. How did I start drawing? I started with comic books. Yeah, I started with comic books when I was, I don't know, maybe 10, 11, something like that. And, back then you couldn't just download comic books on an iPad unlimited. If that were the case, I would certainly just read. I wouldn't have ever stopped to draw. But back then I could only get one comic because of my allowance. It was $1. I got $1 a week, and a comic was 75 cents. So I was able to get one comic, and then they only came out every month. And I would read it as many times as I could, and then I had to wait for weeks before the next issue came out, and so I would start drawing. And I drew, well, first I started tracing. I would tape my comic books up to my window, a single page at a time, and then put a piece of paper on top of that and let the sunlight come through the window. kind of a poor man's light box, I guess. And then I would trace, and then certain tracing. Maybe I wouldn't like one arm, or a leg was incomplete, and I had to fill it in, and so on. So I started slowly drawing that way, and then I went from tracing to drawing those characters, and then I went from drawing those characters, the X-Men mostly, to drawing my own characters. And yeah, so that's how I started, and I've just always done it. I taught you how to draw a hand. Oh, nice. I'm glad you liked it. Teach me your moves. Thanks. I'm trying. I'm trying to teach on YouTube and TikTok. Oh, thank you so much for the 64 roses, Aureus. That's very generous. Thank you. What comic book artist inspired me the most? I like Mark Silvestri. I really liked his style. I was always very excited about the X-Men Annual coming out, because that was usually penciled by Art Adams. He was also incredible. Like an ink paintbrush, similar to an ink pen. Yeah, they are. What do I think about a new style of paintbrush that secretes the color desired? Yeah, that would be pretty cool, but how does the brush know what color you desire? It would be tough for somebody like me who's colorblind, because what I think I desire is not what I actually desire. I can't trust my eyes as much as somebody else. But yeah, that would be cool. I inspired you to draw. Thank you. Was there snow in Montreal? Yes, there was. And it wasn't too bad for Montreal. I used to live in Montreal. I went to school there for a little while, and there was some time every winter where the snow would be over the cars on the street. Montreal gets a lot of snow, not as much as Quebec City and northern Quebec, but yeah, definitely enough to complain about. Bernard Perez, yeah, for sure. And all of the classics, the legends in the game too. Obviously, you have to give them their due. Kirby is absolute legends, untouchable. But yeah, I think there's an emotional aspect to it. You kind of favor who you grew up with, not necessarily who the best artist is. Hey, thanks for the shares and the likes, everyone. Just like an ink pen, each brush will have the color in it. Yeah, it's just a matter of getting the right color out of that brush. Okay, so the next move is this weird brush here, but I'm not even going to use the right end, the brush end. That brush has died a long time ago. It's this end. So you can see what I've done. I've taped a nail onto the end of the brush. It's a fairly crude tape job, but I did it in a pinch and it worked, so why change it? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scratch some lines into this wood here. Let me just maneuver the camera closer so you can get some idea about what's going on here. can't always see it all the line, but you have to make it go all the way across. I'm going to do a little knot right here. You can always paint over this, but what's really nice is you can do a dry brush technique once this layer is dry. Obviously, I can do a dry brush technique, and the paint, if it's say a lighter sienna like that, it will go into these cracks, into these divots that I'm carving into the wood right now. This is a nice use of the panel. You know, I don't think you'd be able to press quite as hard with canvas. At least you wouldn't want to risk it. You might be able to, depending on how many layers of gesso you have on the canvas. One more. Okay. Kim Ward, hey, hello. Yeah, Aureus, you'll have to make some prototypes. Make sure you send me some of your prototypes. It sounds like I'd like to take those ones for a spin. What size is this one? This is the same size as most of the other ones. It's 12 inches as across and 16 inches tall. Just like most of the show. I had 3 in the show that were 8 by 10 inches, but yeah, most of them were this size. I'm going to scratch some into that part of the wood too, but not just yet. Oh, I got some good news today. I just found out that I'm going to be participating in the Affordable Art Fair with a New York gallery called Treat Gallery, who I have shown with before, but I just found out that I just got invited to show with them in the spring. So that's nice. That's good news. Yeah, I showed with them just last September, and then I also have a show with them right now, a holiday show. So that's good news. 3 shows. Okay, I'm going to do like a little, not with that brush. Gotta go smaller brush for this one. Oh, thanks. Yeah, yeah. I'll be able to bring this wood grain forward even more once the first layer dries, and I can dry brush a little bit more on top of this. But I can't do anything right now. Yeah, let me just clean off this little brush here. Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah. It's nice to be invited. I love to make one need some resources. Yeah, that's just it. Lots of ideas. It's really hard to implement them. Thanks for the 15 pandas, Aureus. What am I working on? Yeah, I'm working on a oil painting here, and this one will be going to the Australian gallery that represents me, along with another one. I'm going to send them two. They sold. I usually send them 2 or 3 at a time, and so they sold a couple, so I have to kind of replenish their stock. Yeah, and then after I'm done these ones, I have a charity auction for Kids Help Phone in March. I have to start a painting for that. I participated in the Kids Help Phone charity auction last year as well, and it's put on by the Bank of Montreal in Canada. So that was a nice thing to be a part of. It's you never want to see kids in crisis. What's my idea on this piece of artwork? Yeah, so the idea is it's just a still life with fruit and a bird. This is a finch, and then some flowers. The idea is all of the fruit and flowers and bird, all of the elements here are native to Australia, and that's because the painting is going to live in Australia. But no, other than that, there's no deep meaning or anything. It's a still life. There's no narrative here with, between the bird and the fruit or something along those lines. I'm not. At least one hasn't formed yet. I'll say that. Sometimes these things develop on their own, but nothing's developed yet. This is oil paint. Yeah. Shame on you. You live in Australia? Oh, nice. So if you go to the Brisbane area, if you go to Mermaid Beach on the Gold Coast, that's where the gallery that represents me is located, and it's called 19 Karen. Okay, I'm going to paint just a little bit more of the edge of the painting here. Yeah, it's oil paint. I'm going to paint a little bit more of the edge. Find that a lighter edge usually makes the kind of sells the illusion a little bit better if you put a light edge across. Oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks, Infinite Pile. Yeah, I gesso my panels with black gesso. and everything there down is oil paint. How long have I been doing this specific one? I started today. I just drew it out today. Before I hopped online, I drew it out, and then I had the burnt sienna painted before I came online, and then I just did this one in the last, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however long I've been on. Do I block everything in first? Nah, I don't do that. That's an academic way of painting, and that's the way that you'll certainly be asked to paint if you're learning how to paint. But no, I don't do that. I plan my compositions out so much on Photoshop, and then when I block everything in first, I tend to lose a lot of the smaller details of my composition. So, you know, I've tried different things over the years. I've tried drawing it in charcoal and then putting a layer of fixative or even acrylic gel medium, clear gel, and then starting to glaze colors on top. And I've tried all kinds of things. I've projected just to bypass that issue altogether. But ultimately, I just blocking things in is just doesn't really. It's not my preferred method. Let's put it that way. When I do it this way, just area by area, I also don't waste a lot of paint. And that's because I don't have any greens on my palette right now. I'm going to need a lot of green later. I'm going to need a lot of yellow later, and blue on the bird, but I don't have any of those drying on my palette right now. I just have the browns that I need. So when you put everything out on your palette, you either have to work very quickly, which I'm not good at, or you have to have some paints dry on the palette, and that's not ideal either. So by painting areas at a time, you can take the time you want. How much do I usually sell one of my paintings for? The smallest ones in my last show were about $1,400 Canadian, so about $1,100 American. And the biggest one was about $7,500 American, 8,000 something Canadian. I don't set the prices for my paintings, my gallery does. What oil paints do I recommend? Well, it depends on your budget and where you're at. Yeah, it's a Finch. So I have a YouTube video that talks about all different kinds of oil paint, and I give different recommendations for different budgets and so on. But just generally speaking, I recommend Michael Harding and Old Holland above all other paint. And then if for more budget friendly but still very professional level, I would recommend Gamblin. Yeah. And then for student level, I probably recommend either Gamblin 1980s brand or Winsor Newton's student brand, which is called Winton. What's the size of the canvas? The size of the canvas is 30 centimeters or 12 inches by 16 inches or 41 centimeters. how do I make the colors vivid with black gesso background? I just try to keep my warm colors and my cool colors separate. So when you say vivid, what you're talking about there is there's a dimension of color called chroma, and that's to be distinguished from hue and value. The third dimension is called chroma, and that's where that vividness comes from. And chroma only decreases when you mix a color with another color, but it decreases a lot when you mix a color with a color on the opposite side of the color wheel. The colors tend to desaturate or lose chroma, and they go toward the center of the color wheel. Also, when you add white or black or gray, the same thing happens. So if you want to keep your colors vivid, then only mix colors that are on the same side of the color wheel. So warms with warms, you can mix reds and oranges, no problem. You can mix blues and greens. But if you have a green, you want to mix a cool blue, a blue that has a lot of green in it, not a warm blue, like a blue that has a lot of red in it. So all of that color theory is available in my online, or you could check out. I've made a lot of TikToks on color theory. There's a really good channel here on TikTok called Color Nerd, and he's by far the best I've seen dealing with different color theories. So yeah, I'd recommend. I don't know him. I follow him, but I don't know him. But I definitely recommend following his channel, Color Nerd. It's really good. Goldie and Finch, yes. Put some Seder prints. Are they 10 foot by 6 foot? No. Did I do a typo? Yeah, I put those in. See, the originals are really big. They're 4 feet by 6 feet. I have one here. For community guideline purposes, I have to block them out. But yeah, they're really big. But yeah, I'll have to check my shop now, Adam. I'm paranoid that I made a typo. Is this a copy or your... Oh, sorry, I just reread your message, Adam. I realized that your emoji means you just made a joke. So, apologies. Thank you. Thanks so much. Is this a copy or your idea? Yeah, this is my idea. Yeah. So how I work is I choose a whole bunch of different elements and I put them together in an original composition. So yeah, this is original. Gamerbot. Hello, Dawn. Is that your name, Dawn? Yeah, that Nymphs and Satyrs series was a fun series to work on. I painted the 10 large ones. You can see them all on my Instagram stories. You know, there's on Instagram you can see there's some where you save stories. I think I have one there. You just in my old studio. I have them all lined up, all 10 of them, and I just do a slow pan. It was a lot of canvas. Okay, so we have this Guangdong. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. It's Quan Quan is Quan, D-O-N-G, Dong, Quan Dong. Anyway, it's this fruit. There's a seed here and here, and then these other fruits are here. They kind of have the, well, to my eye anyway, the same redness that you would find in a pepper, but I think they look more like a lychee. Tell me your YouTube and Insta. Oh, everything is Mark Liam Smith. Same as my TikTok name. It's, just everything. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Yeah, everything is Mark Liam Smith. If you're into NFTs, same thing on my OpenSea, Maker's Place, Foundation. Everything's Mark Liam Smith. Okay, so for these seeds, I'm going to go, I think, something like Naples Yellow. Naples Yellow probably makes sense. And Titanium White. I'll start there anyway. Hello, Netherlands. How are you doing this evening? Must be late there. Must be 1:20 in the morning. I have to be careful not to put my fingers into the wet paint. It's unusual for me to start with a background. As those of you who have watched my lives before know, I tend to throw the background in at the very end. What white do I like working with, titanium or other types? Thanks for the question. Yeah, I'll go into this a little bit. Titanium white. Titanium is the king of whites. It's what you want to use unless you have some very specific purposes. So, very easily break it down into if you are a traditionalist and you don't mind working with very toxic paints, then you could go to a Stack White or Kremnitz White. They are very, very toxic and, in my opinion, not worth it. So, but they do offer some unique textures that you can't get from the other whites. So there's a possibility there. I don't touch them. I have Kremnitz, but it kind of creeps me out with all the lead. So for me, it comes down to titanium or zinc. And of the two, zinc white is transparent and has very, very low tinting power. So that tinting power means how much does it, when you mix it with another color, how much of it do you need in order to get a 50-50 split? So if something has a low tinting power, in order to get a color that looks like it's 50-50, I might need something like 90% zinc white. It's just very easily affected by other colors. Something with a high tinting power is the opposite, is titanium white. You can just use a little bit of titanium white and it's very powerful. So in that sense, you don't need as much of it, which is great for conserving paint. Remember, a lot of these paints come out of the ground, whether they're cadmiums or cobalts or chromium or what else? Sulfur, nitrate, I think it is. Titanium. These things are mined out of the ground, lapis lazuli. So whenever you have to mine anything, you have an environmental impact. So if you can not waste paint as much as possible, and that's a good thing. Titanium white is opaque. It has better covering power. It tints. So tinting is when you add white to a color. It tints colors much more effectively. The only time I use zinc is if I paint smoke. And I guess the only other time is if I wanted to glaze white, just an actual glaze, like a transparent glaze. I would use zinc white for that too. I mean, really important. But for all other purposes, titanium. How many hours a day do I work? I work as much as I can. So I usually start, I get up around 6 and I paint for 3 hours or so. And then I look after my son from 9 to 5 pretty much. But when he's napping, I paint. And then after supper, I paint until I'm tired at 11 or 12. So depending on the day and depending on what kind of social media obligations I have, like if I have to make a TikTok or post on YouTube or just answering emails and stuff. So I try to paint 5 hours a day minimum, and then as much as, well, anything, 10 hours sometimes. I paint a lot more when I'm getting ready for a show, and I just finished a show, so I'm not painting too much right now every day. Well, I am painting every day, but I'm not painting too much every day. What am I drawing? Yeah, it's oil paint. It's a finch with some fruit down here, and then there's just some plants. This is a really bizarre looking flower. So yeah, and this oil painting is going to Australia in the new year sometime. Love your content. Keep up the good work. Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, I think I'm going to do some Christmas related content starting, I guess, Monday. No, tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow I post one. I'll do some Christmas related content. I've already done a Christmas tree, but we'll see what else I can draw. Okay, so now I have that Naples yellow, and I'm just mixing it with a little bit of this background color to create the shadows here. This seed is basically a sphere, so I'm just gonna light it like you would light it as a sphere. Sorry, I think I said Christmas accidentally there. I meant to say holiday. It's old habits, you know. So let's just light this in the usual way. So we have what's called a terminator line. By the way, I have a bunch of TikTok videos on how to shade in different ways, and also how to basically do what I'm about to show you right now. I'm going to show you the terminator line, and then I will show you what a core shadow looks like as opposed to a cast shadow. And then I'll show you some reflected light on this. So it'll be a little spherical study. How many layers do you do on your paintings? Are you using an oil to dilute your paints now? No, so there are a whole bunch of different painting techniques that you can apply with oil paint. So in the most academic way, you would paint you would tone your canvas with a very thin layer of either burnt sienna or burnt umber, some kind of mid-tone brown. And then you let it dry, and then you do a charcoal drawing on top, let it dry, and then you would start toning, blocking in basic tones. After that, you would then refine the values, creating a layer called the grisaille. The grisaille is also called the dead layer, and you would cover the whole canvas with black, white, and gray, and you would define your proportions at this time as well. Really make sure everything is set exactly where you want it to be, and you're only focused on light and dark, no color whatsoever. After that, you would then start glazing color on top, working from lights to darks, and then once you got through all the colors and then you made some adjustments, then you would put in some very thick moments, almost like an impasto to highlights, for example, would be a little thick moment of paint. Yeah, this is the so-called Flemish 7-layer method, and obviously there are many more layers than 7, but the glazing is considered 1 layer, but there can be many dozens of layers of glaze depending on how visually complex, chromatically complex you want to make your painting. That's one technique. This technique that I'm painting here is a very different technique. This is called alla prima, and that's the wet into wet technique. I'm blending right there, right on the canvas. I'm not blending in the palette, on my palette, and that's the big difference. So in terms of how many layers, well, if I put a layer down and then I put another color on top of that, but mix them together, it's still just 1 layer now because I've mixed them together. So I don't know, 2 or 3, I guess, is the kind of the right answer. Are acrylic paints okay? Yeah, the acrylic paints are better than ever. The colors are vibrant. You can get natural or synthetic acrylic paints. I would probably recommend golden if you're going to paint with acrylic, but drying time's always been an issue for me, but you can always slow the drying time down with acrylic paint by using additives. So you can decrease the drying time of acrylic paint. You can increase the drying. You can make the drying time shorter with acrylic, and you can lengthen it with oil paint if you want. Sorry, I got that backwards again. I'm all mixed up. You can make your acrylic paints dry not so quickly, and you can speed up the drying for your oils with something called alkyd. I don't use it though. You're having trouble understanding lean to fat. Can I explain? Yeah, lean is paint that has been diluted a lot with some kind of solvent like turpentine or terpenoid or mineral spirits or something like that. And so lean to fat that's talking about the direction. First you start with lean and then you go to fat. Fat in this case means that it hasn't been diluted. It's just thick still. So instead of lean to fat, just think thin to thick. So the idea there is you start with thin paint, and then you get, as you're painting more and more layers, each layer becomes increasingly thicker. So it's the word to that's really important there. That's your direction. Thin paint to thick paint. That's what that means. Thanks for answering all my questions. Just started oil painting. Yeah, well, shame on you. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, then I have a whole video just on supports like panel, canvas, paper, when to use what and why. I have a whole thing on brushes, like all the different brush shapes and why you would use certain ones at certain times. I talk about oil paint, talk about glazing, scumbling. My next video is coming out is going to be on alla prima painting. So yeah, if you're interested in that, you could check those out. I also have some TikToks like how to paint translucent grapes, how to paint water, how to paint lots and lots of things about color theory. Where can I ask you? Well, you can ask me in the chat right now. That's probably the best. Is it really easy to blend? I worked with acrylic and oil is better. Oil is better for blending for sure. It's much better. It doesn't dry as quickly. You're so good at art. Thank you. Golden paint. Yeah, golden's amazing if you're going to be painting with acrylic. But can't draw. Well, you don't need to be able to draw to paint. It's a different skill. If you can draw, it helps, but you don't need to be able to draw. You look at some of the great painters. Some had amazing drawing skills but didn't use it, and others had no drawing skills. And then others had drawing skills and used them. So yeah, there's no one way to paint. I think keep that in mind. You can be a successful painter. And by successful, I mean have a career. You can have a career painting. Many different kinds of work. Just found your account. Someone who loves color. Oh, thank you. Hi. Yeah, thanks for the rose. I don't know what he is using, but not this. I'm using linseed oil. Yes. Yeah, I have, so there's linseed oil already in the paint, and then I also have some more linseed oil if I need to dilute the paint for any reason, like if I'm using an opaque and I want to make it a semi-opaque or anything like that. I tend not to use solvents or turpentine unless I'm specifically glazing, which I'm not right now. I'm painting alla prima, so yeah. I do have linseed oil. I'll put in some kind of spots here now. So I have 2 shows on right now. I have a show on in New York at Treat Gallery, and that is showing my digital photography. And that's on until the end of this month. And I also have a show on in Montreal, and that's a painting show, oil painting. And then that one goes until January 29th. So there's links in my bio if you're interested in checking out my work. I also have prints available starting at $25 if you are interested in picking up a print for Christmas, for the holiday season. I'm just kind of doing these random dots right now, and then I'll be putting in some highlights in a moment. What is the difference between linseed oil and turpentine with a T? Turpentine. So they have functional differences. Obviously, there are a lot of chemical differences. I don't need to get into that, but the functional difference is that turpentine is a solvent. So it's used to thin your paint, but it's also used to clean your brushes. And linseed oil, however, is integral to the paint. So the paint itself is just a powder. It's the crushed rocks like this. Crush it up, and then that powder needs to be suspended in a material. And that material is called a binder. So crushed rocks floats inside a binder, and that binder is linseed oil. It doesn't have to be linseed oil. It can be safflower oil or walnut oil or poppy seed oil, even coconut oil. But you do need a binder. And you can mix both together. You can mix linseed oil and turpentine, but turpentine's really unpleasant to smell. So there are some odorless mineral spirits you can use instead. I do not use turpentine unless you have excellent ventilation, and it should be said. Oh, just subscribe. Thank you so much for subscribing to the YouTube. Make a video for some cool references for some students. Yeah, I think references like that. Maybe if I had like a formal course or something like that, I would probably have something like that. I don't have a formal course right now. I just have a YouTube channel. But yeah, I can consider that for sure. So I like painting the moon. Thanks for making viewers feel heard and seen. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I'm in Canada too. Just outside Toronto in Oakville. What do you use instead of turpentine if you don't have a well-ventilated area? You can use odorless mineral spirits. And there's something else called terpenoid you can use. You can pick those up at any art store. I personally don't use anything unless I'm specifically glazing, and I don't really glaze much anymore. I mostly paint alla prima, so I only use linseed oil. I don't have there's barely any smell in my studio. It's really turpentine. It's the offender, the olfactory offender. I'd like to get the shadow a little darker without losing all of those details that I just put in. Some bumps and things. I keep thinking about the last large painting I did for my show. It was so much fun. I kind of got to a point when I was doing that painting that I was trying to find new spaces to put a texture in that I had never painted before. I did so many new textures in that painting. I did diamonds and honey and snake, leather, paper, feathers, caviar. Yeah, it's so many new textures for me. That was really fun. I think I'd like to do, maybe in the new year I will, like to do just another really big one. And, this edge here is too light. And then I'm going to get a little bit of that Naples yellow mixed with white for the reflected light. It's important to get some reflected light to kind of sell the illusion. So let's see if we can get something brighter right here. Okay, and I'm going to get a white highlight right where the light's coming from. You're doing a comic at the moment? Nice. That's really cool. I haven't drawn a comic in quite a while. It's always really fun trying to plan it out. I like the character development. I mean, when you're ready to draw a comic, you kind of get caught up in the backstory as well. Start designing your characters, do character sheets. You remember this old comic called Marvel Handbook? It was basically like an encyclopedia. I used to do that for all of my characters as well, before I even started the comic. Obviously, cover art is a different beast. I'm gonna make this bumpy. Right-handed to find yourself smudging your paint before you realize it. Yeah, I do that too. Yeah, I do have a suggestion. Let me show you this suggestion. So, I don't know how what your setup's like, but I have kind of this regular easel, so I can either use this part of my easel, or I can actually just use the painting it as well. But I have a selfie stick here, and it's very portable. It folds, it's telescopic, so it comes right out, and that bends down. It's nice because that extends onto the canvas, so I can either put it right onto the canvas, or what I usually do is I put it up here, and then this on my non-dominant hand I hold the pole. This is what in art you'd call a maul stick, and then with your right hand, if you're right hand dominant, you would rest it on the stick, so it's kind of floating above the painting. You don't smudge the painting, and also you give yourself incredible stability for when you're doing meticulous details. So yeah, get your hands on a cheap dollar store selfie stick. That's my recommendation. At one point you were thinking of putting lives somewhere accessible. They're good to paint to start it. Have a go. Yeah. Thanks for your question, Adam. So I did. I downloaded all of my lives for the large painting, A Song of Sixpence, and I had almost 65 hours of footage from lives, and I put it all into my computer and started cutting the movie, but my computer is just too old. It's only, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, something like that, but the file was gigabytes and gigabytes, and yeah, I just couldn't handle it, so I wasn't even able to edit it. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I still have the files, but I don't know how I can put them. Sorry, are you saying, Adam, are you saying that you just started having a go at painting? If so, that's awesome. Well done for going for it. It's jumping in. That's fantastic. If you have any questions, feel free to just drop me a line. Either Instagram or TikTok, or email, as you wish. Happy to help out. Yeah, it's terrifying. Yeah, it sure is. They're just you're sort of spoiled for choice. How you start, what you do, even what brushes to use, and then don't even start with talking about color. That's all terrifying too. So I would recommend that you minimize your choice. So take color off the table. Just remove color. Go black and white, and then just deal with value. Deal with mixing different grays. Just practice mixing with a palette knife. A little bit of white there, a little bit of black there. Mix them together. Oh, that's not as light as I wanted it to be. That's not as dark as I want, and so on. And try to make adjustments. Just that skill. Hello, Guyana. Yeah, black and white, and then try to do a black and white painting. And what you're going to focus on there is how much paint you're going to put on in your brush. How brushes hold paint and how they release the paint is different depending on the shapes of the brush. So you can really play with that and just get a feel for it. Take color out of the equation and just experiment. Also, don't paint on... Hey, New Zealand, how you doing? Let's... And then here's another thing too. Don't paint on panel or canvas to start. Get yourself one of these. Oil and acrylic. This is a pad. 24 sheets. And you can see the texture. It's textured. It's textured like canvas. It's 24 sheets, and it's about $10, or I don't know what it is in pounds. 6 pounds or something like that. Yeah. So then, you can just experiment without feeling like you're wasting money. Yeah, definitely recommend that. Love your art. Thank you so much, Canson. Yeah, those are great. Those thicker ones. Let me see. I've got another seed here I'm gonna go for. It's gonna be the same color combination. It's gonna be that Naples yellow, a little bit of white in there. Oh, my pleasure, yeah. It's I'm really happy for you that you're taking the plunge. I kind of look at painting like, some people go long distance running, and some people do meditation. I look at it like in the same grouping. It's a way to focus your mind. It's a way to slow the world down. It's a way to increase your patience, your concentration. You're training your brain. And yeah, I think a lot of the features of painting, when you do all of those things, you can find that the other aspects of your life are affected. When you have more focus, you're more patient, you're more confident. Yeah, freeing yourself to explore, exactly, infinite pile. There's an aspect of painting that is the very serious business of play that is not to be underestimated. Play is vitally important, and it's not. It's rarely engaged. At a certain point, people stop playing. But yeah, when you play, you explore, you develop your creativity, your imagination, you laugh. I'm just gonna go for I'm just mixing. This is burnt sienna, maybe. Yeah, burnt sienna with black. It's just kind of a really dull brown. And mixing it in here with Naples yellow. Infinite Pile, I always assumed you did paint. You have always such good comments. Seems like you are a painter. How did your exhibition go? Yeah, it went well. Thank you. Thank you very much for asking. I was in Montreal for about a week, and he's got a brand new gallery space. Moved my representing gallery. He moved his gallery to the old port of Montreal. So yeah, it was really great to be there and see the culmination of, was it about 9 months worth of work, all finally hung and lit nicely, and to see a lot of my friends. I had both of my best friends there. One flew from all the way from Saskatchewan to Montreal for the weekend. Missy Jam 1 changed your name. It was Scorpio Minx. Yeah, Scorpio Minx is definitely spicier. I have to go a lot darker underneath here. Even darker still. Okay. These fruits, these guandongs, are very red. I'm going to have to use lots of different kinds of reds. Cadmium will be the primary red I use for this one. But I'm going to go with some magentas as well in the shadows. Sydney Hay, Very satisfying red. Yeah, cadmium red's amazing. It's a powerhouse for sure. Such strong tinting power. You can add other colors to it. Still always get a really nice vibrant red. Even the shades and the tones and the tints of this red are amazing. Goes well with alizarin crimson and magenta. Mixes really well. I have a little bit of black mixed in here. And that's going to decrease the chroma of the red, which is fine because it's in shadow anyway. Gotta go. Really appreciate your knowledge and kindness. Yeah, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for dropping by. See you in another one down the line. This is that same color. I've just added a little bit of white, and that's called tinting. This is going to give me a nice highlight. a black on this one. With a little bit of white. Have to be careful not to mix them too much. It's going to be gray if I do, which is not what I want. I'm getting some more highlights up here, this top part. So I'm going to really push the values here. This red fruit is going to look really nice against the green of the plant. So the red and the green are complementary colors. And I'm just going to knock it back a little bit more right here. How does light play a role in what color to use? Yeah, it does. Light affects everything. Depending on where the light is hitting, then you're going to get highlights. The opposite, the light is going to create a coarse shadow, and then it's going to create cast shadows of that object. It's also going to be responsible for your reflected light, everything. Absolutely, the whole painting is affected by the direction and the intensity of the light. I mean, it can be said, some painters have said that you don't paint objects, you paint the light. That was the big idea with Impressionism. Oh no, they weren't trying to get a super accurate representation, they were just getting an impression, but yeah, they were painting the light, they weren't painting the objects. I'm so calm. Oh, thank you. Get the excitement and the nerves, the blank canvas. Yeah, for sure. Cadmium red. It's incomparable. It's such a beautiful color. And I'm red-green colorblind, so I can't imagine. If this is how beautiful it is to me, I can't imagine what this red must look like to the rest of you. tutorial of the hand you made. Really cool. Helps you draw the hand for once. Oh, nice. Thanks. I think I have 5 tutorials for hands at this point. I have 3 tutorials of hands open, and then two different two different versions of fists. But yeah, hands are tricky. You almost need a tutorial for every different one. You know, unless you learn the underlying anatomy and go about it that way. But yeah, very difficult. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there. It's 9:15 where I am. I think it's a good time for me to stop. I'm just going to pull back. Let's see what we did today. Yeah, it might not seem like a lot, but a decent amount of work, I think. Okay, so we started with the table, which was raw sienna, and then mixed some black with that raw sienna to create this side color here, and then painted the black underneath. After that, put in a few details, including the edge with a raw sienna and white combination, titanium white, and a couple of cracks. Also, we took the nail, talked a little bit about that technique. With a paintbrush, I just have a nail taped to the end of this paintbrush here, and I scratched the board, scratched the wood grain pattern into, and you can just see there, the nail. And then we moved on to the guandong fruit, starting with the seeds. Did those 2, and now on to the main fruit. So we're going to carry on with more of that either tomorrow or the next day. I have a lot of them to do here, all the way across. This is a yellow plant back here, and then there's a large flower. This finch is really exciting because it's all kinds of colors. It's got a blue chest, green wings, yellow breast, or kind of orangey yellow, and a red hood. So it'll be fun to paint. Looking forward to that. Okay, yeah, so in the meantime, please do check out my online shop if you're interested in getting any of my art on your walls this holiday season. My paintings, my prints start at $25, and but most of them are 25 to 40, and there are a couple of that are bigger, that are a little bit more, but yeah, link in the bio, or you can go to markliamsmith.com. And thank you all again. It is much appreciated. Bye-bye. Happy painting.